In the second half of our lesson, we continue to review the rise of kings and the different forces that contributed to the growth in their power during the late Middle Ages. We'll start here with a brief review. So let's think about the topic we began earlier this week. What was the outcome of the conflict between Pope Gregory and King Henry, which is what we were looking at through our blue textbook, our painting, and the DBQ mini questions. Consider which of the choices on your screen is the best answer. Pause the video as you think. Hopefully you are identifying statement C. Now, pause the video again to consider what makes each of the other statements wrong. This is a deeper level of thinking that will help you master this topic. Letter A is wrong because it only tells the first half of the story. This is true. Gregory does excommunicate Henry, and that leads to the painting we examined yesterday where Henry must beg forgiveness. The Pope grants that, and eventually Henry turns the tables, raises an army, and defeats the Pope. Letter B is obviously incorrect because Henry cannot excommunicate. We need to know that that term means to kick out of the church, and that it is a power of the Pope, not the king. The king is able to exile people. So this first half of letter D is true. King Henry exiles Pope Gregory. The incorrect part is that he doesn't completely destroy the Catholic Church. He is still a loyal Christian. He just doesn't want the Pope to have more power than him. He believes the church should be a part of life, but it should be under the king and it should be focused on religion, not politics and economics. Let's think back even further to the first part of this lesson. Consider the question on screen and which statement is accurate. Pause as you think. The correct answer is letter B. At the end of this Norman conquest, as we call it, because he's from Normandy, the new King William fights against these nobles and defeats them finally at the Battle of Hastings. He's a powerful king with control over the other nobles. Like you did with the previous question, pause the video once more to consider what makes the other statements inaccurate. Hopefully, we're recognizing that William the Conqueror is a part of the Norman conquest, not the 100 Years' War, which we will study later. He's also working not to unify France, but to unify England. He comes from France, but attacks England. In letter C, he's not defeated. Instead, he is victorious, and he actually proves the exact opposite, that the kings are able to put themselves over top of the nobles. In letter D, you might have been thinking about King Richard, who is the one that works during the crusade to create this deal. Our next step, which might be challenging for you, but you can still give it a little bit of thought from these small pictures. I want you to imagine the documents we looked at yesterday. Imagine you're a teacher, nightmare, of 6th grade students. Consider what order you would put these documents in to help the students actually make sense of them. Pause the video as you think. There's no exact answer here. A lot of it just came from thinking and explaining. But what I would have said is that document E, what we looked at yesterday, the painting and the textbook entry, I would have put those first, just like I did with you. The textbook is built to be simple overview without too much depth, written in very student-friendly language. And the painting's meant to kind of pull their attention in and give them something to visualize as they learn more. So I would have put that one first. The next was a tough choice between documents A and B. I probably, for 6th graders, would have actually started with document B. It's still a credible secondary informational overview that's providing objective facts, and so that's good, but that's true of both. What I think makes B maybe the easier starting point is that it's a pair of biographies. Number one, younger readers, all of us really, tend to do better with stories than we do with complex webs. And people's lives, biographies, are often told very similarly to the form of like a narrative story. I also like that it's broken into two smaller pieces, which tends to help younger readers. And I like that it's giving us some background to these figures that helps us understand why they behaved the way they did during the investiture crisis. From there, I would have gone to document A, this overview from the encyclopedia, providing a little more depth. And then I think C and D could have gone in either order, but I would have definitely saved them for last. Those primary sources that include bias and unfamiliar language, that's the most difficult piece. And so we want students to have some background knowledge and comfort before they leap into those more challenging sources. And even though I'm describing this as if you were teaching sixth graders, the same thing should be true of ourselves. When you have gathered research in front of you, you should be smart about what order you are consuming it in so that you can make the most sense of it. And that's what we're trying to be intentional about throughout this year. Our next step was that I wanted students to kind of compare these two documents first against our earlier sources, and then think about how that would affect our reading. You know, as I just said, these are primary biased, challenging sources, and that means we need to slow down. First, you need to slow down so that you can make sense of the unfamiliar words and sentence structure. You can use the glossary that I've included on the side here to give you some support. You know, I think that would make your life easier. Second, you need to have your guard up. Remember that these are primary sources that might not all tell the complete truth or even the total truth. They may twist things or even lie. And so we need to be thinking about that as we read. You know, it's really important more than ever that you're stopping at the end of almost every sentence to make sure of the ideas and to question them a little bit. So from here, I'll have you read these final two documents. I'm not going to make you reread document E because we did that with the chart yesterday. I'll have you consider the questions that go with them, but you don't have to record answers. Your final step will then be to go and show me what you've learned, that you can truly make sense of these and give me some independent answers to questions that I would expect you to know moving into the future.